I mean, if you sit down and you actually, if you're smart enough to do the math, then it might actually be accurate. Based on this, my theory that I'm sharing with you.
If you stay with it,
if you stay with it,
you'll be inhabited
you'll
by
be inhabited
something, and
by
then
something.
you walk out.
Anybody who wants to dabble into things like, I beg you, don't. Okay, I beg you, don't. The outcome is never good. Like using hard drugs, you might go on a wild trip and you might actually feel, you know, that rush, but the outcome is never good at the end of the day. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Please make sure you subscribe right now and give this video a big thumbs up. The Terrence issue. I've been wondering why learning chemistry, advanced chemistry from Terrence and mathematics and this whole thing about life and
specifically. Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, the periodic table they have now,
let's see.
It looks like a box. It looks like a straight box. But they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E. Same key of E, 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt and it'll be 324 hertz. It's take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, you know, their color. Like you can turn color back into sound based upon it's the same wavelength, it's just twice as long or much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2. You keep dividing light by 2, and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it, because there was a relationship between light and color, sound and tone, matter and shape. Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you will compare that to Mendeleev's periodic table, and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding.
Whoa.
And you see there's a relationship that hydrogen.
So you had figured this out at a young age?
I had already seen this. This was all inside of that palace. I had access to it, and I knew the relationship.
You saw this in dreams?
I saw it as a circle. Everything was a full circle laid out, and each area was just expanding, like wrapping a rag around your hand. The first wrap, you know, it's so tight. This is how I saw it more so, but as a vortex. You'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon.
I've just been wondering, has he always been a genius, or is there something else going on? Different people have different theories. Some people are like he's lost it, some people are like he's off his meds, some people are like he's having a schizophrenic break, some people are like he's genuinely a genius. Somebody was like he's smarter than Bill Gates. I don't believe that when somebody comes out with something that is completely different from what we're used to, what we accept, we've always accepted as the truth, that we should dismiss that person completely. But I will admit that it is curious, right? So I found this clip, and after listening to certain parts of it, I have my own theory on why that might be happening. So let's watch it together.
I did some acting and studying acting, and you said something I've never really heard a lot of actors say about the process of acting. And you said that sometimes when you walk off, they walk off with your clothes.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
You know, but I sit up and I'll pray for a little bit and go in a dark place, go in the bathroom, turn off the lights, look in the mirror. We'll have the light on at first, and then after 1 minute, turn the light off, and you know, and search until you see your own glow, your own aura, and then you watch it change.
Wow.
And it's a scary thing, because you'll feel like some hands are on you, and you lose a little bit of control of what you're doing. But you know, if you stay with it, you know, you'll be inhabited by something, and then you walk out.
And that is what I mean. Now, as human beings, we speak in metaphorical language most times. The language with which we speak isn't usually always 100% scientifically accurate, and that is something that we need to recognize. And I know for a fact that when I speak, many times I speak metaphorically, majority of the times, and when people take that literally, it irritates me, because I'm like, that's not, like, as humans we speak metaphorically many of the time. When you say person stole my heart, like they did not reach into your chest and physically rip out your heart and run away with it, right? When you say it was as if the moon descended into the water. The moon did not descend into the water, but when you say that, people can picture it. So what I'm trying to say is that we speak metaphorically many of the times, and we have to allow for people to speak that way and not take everything they say literally, which is why many times when people speak and they say things that I do not really understand, I think, okay, perhaps they're speaking metaphorically. Or when they say things that are just strange to me, I allow for the fact that they could be speaking metaphorically. But in this case, something tells me that he might not be speaking metaphorically, because I have heard snatches of things like this from some other people. There was this whole thing before when we were in secondary school where we heard about a or somebody like that who said something similar to this in an interview, and she was like, this other spirit kind of takes over for her, and people were like, oh my god, she's now in the church of Satan or whatever. I did not really take it seriously at the time. I was like, you guys get real, okay? But in this case, I don't know. I don't, especially with the things that unique behaviors that he's exhibiting. I don't know, all right? Because there's this whole thing about possession. There is a thing about possession, and it is real, okay? It's not as frequent as some people think it is. But if you're from a place like this, this awesome continent called Africa, then you will know it is real. You will know that there's a whole different realm that we do not have access to, as we have access to the physical realm, and that some people do have access to using different, what I call keys, or what you might call portals. And you can say, oh, some are wrong, some are right. That is left to different religious communities to discuss based on their own theologies. But it does exist. That is a fact. You believe it, you don't believe it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Some people do, like we have things like oracle in the African traditional religion, which is basically, I don't know why we call it the African traditional religion really, because it's kind of like a religion where different people have different idols that they worship in different ways. So it's not as if it's one religion, it's kind of like a medley of different religions. But anyway, let's not even get into it. There's the whole thing about oracles, right? And how sometimes I don't do it, they have priests, right? And the priests will have a certain individual that is the oracle through which the gods speak, and they pass the message, that the gods pass the message they want to pass through that oracle, and they always have certain boundaries for that individual. Like that individual has to be a child, or the individual has to be a female, or the individual has to be a female virgin of a certain age, right? And they cannot get married, have to live in this way, and they have to eat only this, and they can never ever do this, and they have to bathe this way, and they have to they have to only wear certain things. They always have this ritual surrounding that. There are some people that spirits inhabit, and I know that other than from the African traditional religion, other than that, some people do take advantage of some capacities that they say they have of communicating with other entities, i.e. spirits, and some people do dabble into trying to communicate with the spirits. Like some people call it the Jinn, right? The Jinn, it's kind of like that. So the Jinn would be like an Arabic word for demons, right? So demons do inhabit people, and there are some of them, according to what I've heard, some of them are not as nasty as some other ones. But I've heard that if anyone is inhabiting somebody, then they are most likely nasty. And from what we know, the Jinns, demons have superhuman ability, not because they are like powerful in the way like God is powerful or something like that, no, but just that they are a different species from we humans. And so just like we humans have certain intellectual capabilities that animals do not have, the Jinn or the demons have certain physical or some other capabilities, let's just say superhuman capabilities that we humans do not have. And so it usually seems just wild to us. And some of the ways you will know if a person is inhabited by a jinn or a demon is that you might see them having sudden strength. Like, I'm not talking about somebody who has been training for a long time to have a certain strength, like strength training and all that. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about somebody with skills. I'm talking about somebody who is naturally stronger than other people. No, we're talking about maybe a child, for instance. Just a child, just a puny child who is able to lift up, let's say, maybe a car. Like, that's crazy. Then you will know that, okay, something is off. and this is not that child. We're talking about somebody who just, in some cases, there's an abrupt switch, behavioral switch. Like, this person is the sweetest, kindest, loveliest person you will ever meet, and suddenly overnight they just become this wild, crazy axe murderer, right? And then after they murder like 20 people, they come out of that trance-like state, and they're like, they don't know what came over them, right? And people are like, oh, this person's a horrible person, the gentle ones are always the worst, da, 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 da. But they're like, their only explanation is they don't know what came over them, right? There are situations like that, and that people have linked to demon or jinn possession. And sometimes some people might just do crazy, like they might not end up doing wild things like that when they're under that influence, but they might end up doing certain crazy things, like just wake up one day and shave themselves bald, or wake up one day and just wear something weird, or just go and copulate with a person. I'm sorry I used that word, with an individual or an entity that they never would think of, or maybe wear a weird wig to an interview. Maybe. And remember I said something about the supernatural abilities? Well, somebody might wake up one day and say they saw something in a dream. Or somebody might come up with this wild theories that we've never heard of before, and it might challenge everything we've been taught in school, in math, in science, in chemistry, everything, like in physics, everything. And they might actually just discover those things, and people will say, oh my god, this person is crazy, oh my god, this person is having a schizophrenic break, and we'll be loath to accept the fact that we might have actually been wrong this entire time. But it might actually be true. Some people are like, his math ain't mathing, he's not really a good mathematician, he's not really a genius. And some people are like, oh, he's really a genius, we're just not smart enough to get it. Based on this, my theory that I'm sharing with you guys, I would, if I were a betting person, I'm not a gambler, but if I were, I would bet that his theories might actually be correct. I mean, if you sit down and if you're smart enough to do the math, then it might actually be accurate. But the question is, how did they get there? The reason for that could actually be because of the demonic possession, and it could be that he's actually telling us the truth here. He's actually telling us the reason for that, right? And then I'm going to rewind this a little bit so that I can really break down the reason why I'm saying he might not be speaking metaphorically here. It's because he's giving us details. He's giving us a play-by-play of how he goes through the process of becoming possessed by this entity. Okay, now watch this.
Dark place, go in the bathroom, turn off the lights.
From what we know about demons and jinns and, those entities, they operate in the dark. As I'm sure if you've heard of demons, you know the dark is their friend. I've also heard that they like dirty places, or places that are dedicated to passing out bodily waste, like bathrooms, right? I'm not saying that your bathroom is dirty, I'm saying the bathroom is a room dedicated to that purpose, okay, that function. And so they like places like that. And so it's curious that he would say specifically, like he would give us in detail that he would have the light on first, and then he'll take off the light. He'll pray first. He'll say a little prayer, invoking. He'll turn off the lights, inviting, and he's making sure his environment is a place where they'll feel comfortable coming a bathroom. Okay? So that's why I'm saying I don't think he's speaking metaphorically here. I think he's actually being literal, because when people narrate things, you can tell if a person is making up stuff just because, or maybe they heard it somewhere, or they just want to seem, just different, or if they're actually telling you literally what they do and what happens. You can tell, because they will give you certain details that otherwise you might not, they might not be able to come up with. Right? And these details, they seem very consistent with somebody who might be actually practicing that.
In the mirror.
Look in the mirror.
We'll have the light on it first, and then after 1 minute, turn the light off, and and search until you see your own glow, your own aura, and then you watch it change.
Wow.
And it's a scary thing, because you'll feel like some hands are on you.
Wow.
Now, it's a scary thing. You watch the change. It's a scary thing. if you pray, if let's say he was praying, first of all, if you were praying to the creator, and funny enough, in this interview actually mentions the creator, but then that doesn't tell us much, because even the devil believes in the creator, right? He knows the creator exists. So knowing that there's a creator doesn't really tell us anything. But the fact that he's saying is scary. If you're praying, prayer first of all, you're not even praying in the bathroom, okay? You wouldn't pray in the bathroom. But even if you don't have a problem with praying in the bathroom and deliberately turning off the light, I don't know why you would deliberately turn off the light in the bathroom in order to pray. The light was on before, and then you turn it off, and then you watch that change come upon you. And of course, the prayer you prayed was with the intention of having that thing come in you. But you don't say, like, the prayer doesn't cause you to become scared. It doesn't bring about the change that makes you scared. If prayer causes a feeling in you, it is a feeling of peace, of contentment, a feeling of serenity is what prayer brings. I don't know any single person of any religion, whether it's Muslims or Christians or, like, I don't know, Buddhists or whatever, like I don't know of anybody who practices any religion that where they pray and talks about how they become scared after. Like, you don't like, the two do not merge, okay? Like, you might believe that, like, for Christians, they might believe that the Holy Spirit comes on them, in them, but that brings calm and peace, right? Like, for Muslims, you might believe that angels surround you. Like, the presence of angels bring purity and peace and serenity. Being fear has nothing to do with that. Fear is only associated with the devil. Fear is only associated with the presence of demons. Like, if you have nightmares, they'll tell you that, the nightmares, especially the horrible, terrifying nightmares where you wake up sweating, is caused by the devils, like the demons, right? So demons are associated with fear. So it's curious that he would say that you get scared a little bit. And then he said, because you will feel these hands all over you. I have had it's not as if I'm obsessed with Jinn stories or demon stories or whatever, but I've had the story of somebody, or a narration by somebody who was present at an exorcism, and he was talking about how he followed somebody who does the exorcisms, and there was a guy who they needed to help. The father called them to help the son, who he suspected was being disturbed by demon possession, and so during the process, the person who was trying to help the guy told him, the person was narrating the story to, he held the hand of the boy when he was praying for him, and then he told him, the person was narrating, to hold his own hand. And so when he held the man's hand, he felt like, what he literally said was, like, he felt like there were pins and needles, like somebody was gripping his body with, like, sharp nails and claws, as if they were grabbing him with, like, hot fiery fingers, or like with pins and needles on their fingers. Like, that was what he described. So it's curious how this person is also saying that you feel as if you feel afraid, and then you feel as if there's somebody touching your body, and it comes with fear. It's very, very curious. Now let's continue.
Lose a little bit of control of what you're doing, but...
And that is the hallmark of a demonic possession. You lose control of what you're doing. Again, if you believe in the Holy Spirit touching you or coming in you, you don't lose control of yourself or what you're doing, or you don't lose control. You just become a better person, right? If you feel angels are around you, you don't lose control of yourself. You just become a better person. Like, for you to lose control, it means there's literally another entity in you that is taking over for you, and you're allowing it. And in some cases, we've heard stories of people who just dabble into these things that they don't understand, and somebody deceives them. Like, we have these religious charlatans who pretend to be godly people but actually horrible people, and then they deceive people and give them some kinds of, like, demonic, satanic types of rituals and prayers. And then when the poor children or the poor people actually engage in those prayers, they don't know that they are inviting spirits, right, to come to them. And when that person becomes so afraid because they don't know what's happening, and they fight these entities that are trying to enter into them, they don't accept it, or they don't, just lean into it, they actually lose their minds. They literally lose their minds. Like, they go into this, what we might call a schizophrenic kind of break. If you don't if you don't handle it the way you're supposed to handle it, then things can go haywire very, very quickly.
If you stay with it,
if you stay with it,
you'll be inhabited by something, and then you walk out, the character with you, and you got to know how to say goodbye to it.
Right.
If you really want to get there.
Right.
A lot of people are afraid, to empty themselves and be filled up with something else. But, as an actor, you're an emotional prostitute.
Wow.
You put on whatever you need for the job. You're turning a trick, turning an emotional trick. Wow.
And you say some people are afraid. Well, some people should be afraid. Everybody should be afraid of that kind of thing, because in my opinion, you are dabbling into something that you have no control over, you have no power over, you do not fully understand, and you definitely do not have the tools to handle. You're going into an alliance with somebody for something, and this person operates in this way, but he also has the superpower. It's something that I can also go and try to get the same superpower or some other superpower that can help me counter their superpower, just in case things do not work out the way we want and people change their minds and things get out of hand, right? But in this case, you're dealing with entities that you don't have any control over. You don't even have half as much knowledge as you think you do about these entities, and you are meddling with them, and you are playing with them, and you are talking about how people are afraid. They should be afraid. You're right, they should be afraid, and you should be afraid, because many people who do this, they do it for a very long time. And we hear about people like that who are, like I said, religious charlatans who claim to be godly people but actually meddle with demons and things of that sort. People who just do things like this over and over, and they achieve some just what would call amazing feats. Like they make all this money, or they help other people make all this money, and they do all these things that are amazing to us. At the end of the day, at some point, things always turn like 180-degree for them, and they'll hear that, oh, this person just had a schizophrenic break, and you'll be wondering how this person has been okay their entire life. This person has been amazing their entire life. How did that happen? Like, how did they become somebody walking naked on the streets, looking on cabs? Like, how did they get from there to there, right? Or you hear that they just died suddenly, or you hear that they just something horrific usually happens, and that's because you are meddling with entities that you do not understand. You don't understand simply because you want to be an emotional prostitute. I think there are better, easier, safer ways to become an emotional prostitute if that's what you want to become. Not by meddling with things like that and allowing your body to be inhabited by this other entity and divorcing yourself of your body just to be overtaken by this entity. But again, I'm not here to judge anybody's life choices. Everybody, to each his own. I'm just saying to anybody who might be hearing of things like that and might be considering meddling in that. We've heard of lots of people who have meddled in things like that, and the outcome is never good. The outcome is never good. The outcome is never good. Because you think you are using this. First of all, nothing goes for nothing. Okay, even as human beings, nothing goes for nothing. I don't believe human beings are altruistic. I do not believe it. No human being is altruistic. There's always something in it for you. Whether you know, whether you are aware of that thing that you believe is in it for you, or you are not aware of it, there is always something in it for you that deep down inside you believe, and that's why you do something good. That's why you do anything you do. Okay, so there is nothing goes for nothing. So if you think, if between human beings, when we deal with each other, we know that fact that nothing goes for nothing, why do you think that there will be some other entity, some other creature that you believe is real? If you don't believe it's real, it's different. If you don't believe it's real, then you wouldn't be doing this ritual. It's clearly a ritual. You wouldn't be doing that, but you believe it's real, and yet you want to use it to help you become this character, to help you embody this character, but you're not thinking of paying it anything. Or is it that you're doing something that it wants you to do but you're not telling us? It's either you're doing something that it wants you to do but you're not telling us, or you think naively that you're not going to pay anything, which is just the beginning of your problems. You will pay in some way, and you probably are already paying in some way. But again, it's not my business. Just anybody who wants to dabble into things like that, who thinks it might be the cool thing to do, I beg you, don't. Okay, I beg you, don't. The outcome is never good. The outcome is never good. It's like using hard drugs. You might go on a wild trip and you might actually feel, that rush, but the outcome is never good at the end of the day. And from what we know, these entities actually use the people who think they are using them. the entities actually use them. They don't know, and before you know it, and you see somebody, they, you know, they will demand. Like I said in the beginning, they will demand that you have to do this thing, you have to do that thing. Just the way the oracles are actually told you have to do this thing, you cannot do that thing. And you know, you'll see people going once a month to the burial ground to sleep there for no reason except that that's something they have to do because the entity that they interact with told them that that's what they have to do. Not because the entity is interested. The entity just just wants to mock you and humiliate you. It's not as if they care. The entity doesn't want money. Right? What do demons want with money? They don't care about your money. If it's a human being, you can pay them money, you can give them food, you can get it, like. But this ones, they don't care. So what will they like? What do they want from you? And you have to pay something. You have to pay something. So before you know it now, you see people going in the middle of the streets, like in the hot afternoon, sitting down in the middle of the road and eating fecal matter. And I'm not even joking. And that's not even a joke. Like, ask any African you know, they'll tell you weird stuff. Okay, just ask any African you know, they'll tell you weird stuff that happens. And no, we're not making this stuff up because it happens. That's why we don't celebrate things like Halloween. We don't celebrate Halloween because we already have real witches here and real, like, we already have like real life crazy stuff that happens. We don't need to pretend as if crazy stuff is going to happen. It already happens. Okay, it already happens. So it's like daily Halloween if you live in Africa. So if you doubt me, just ask any African you know, or just go to Africa and live there for like 3 months and tell me if you think that these things do not actually exist. They exist, and you will always have to pay something in return for whatever you think these entities will do for you. But anyway, back to the discussion. The point is, when Terrence Howard comes and says 1 × 1 = 2, I mean, maybe, actually, it's not maybe. I don't think I'm smart enough to get that, okay? Let's just be happy that we passed physics, okay? Like, I mean, I love mathematics and all of that, but not to that extent. And most of us struggle with like chemistry and physics and all of that. And it could be that he's right. It could be that it was literally because what we were being taught was wrong. What we've been getting taught all this while was actually wrong, and he's actually telling us what is right. It's just that we haven't gotten there. It could be that way. Like, I'm not here to say he's insane, or I'm saying that if he's coming up with these things, then there's a reason. And I know different people have different theories. I've just shared my theory with you. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Just let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree with me or if you disagree. And maybe I'll be able to alter my theory based on what you share. I love reading your comments. So yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much. If you're still watching till this moment, thank you. Thank you a lot for sticking with me till the end of this video. If you have not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe right now and give this video a big thumbs up. And I will see you next time.